You know that moment when you pick up your partner's phone just to check the time and they snatch it back a little too fast? Or when they say they're working late, but you call the office and no one's seen them all day? Small things, tiny cracks. At first you ignore them, then you start keeping track. And then one day you realize you don't trust the person you love anymore. That's where Mark found himself 6 months ago. And that's why he did something he never thought he'd do. He bought a GPS tracker for his wife's car. For 30 days he watched where she went. And what he discovered changed everything. This is what happened. Michael and Lauren had what looked like the perfect marriage. 7 years together, a house in the suburbs. Friends called them couple goals. They even had that annoying habit of finishing each other's sentences. But then, things changed. Slowly. So slowly, Michael almost didn't notice at first. It started with the late nights, then the sudden business trips, the way Lauren would turn her phone face down when it buzzed. Michael told himself it was nothing. Stress. A busy season at work. Until one Tuesday night when he found something that didn't add up. That receipt cost $78.40, and it would cost Michael his peace of mind. Michael started paying attention after the receipt. Little things, like how Lauren's phone was always on silent now, how she'd step out of the room to take calls. One night, he watched her delete an entire text thread before putting her phone down. When he asked who she was messaging, she said it was just her mom. But Michael had seen her mom's contact earlier that day. It was saved under Mom. This one had no name. Then came the late nights. Lauren said she was pulling extra hours to finish a project. But when Michael called her office at 8 p.m., the receptionist said everyone had left by 6. He drove over, parked across the street, and waited. At 9:30, Lauren finally walked out. Alone, got in her car, and drove in the opposite direction of home. Michael tailed her for 20 minutes, no phone call, no explanation, just his wife driving toward a part of town they never went to. Then she pulled into the parking lot of a restaurant, one he'd never heard her mention. He sat there, engine off, and watched her walk inside. Through the window, he could see her slide into a booth, across from someone. But the angle was wrong. He couldn't see who it was. That was the first night Michael thought he might be losing her. Michael sat there for 2 hours, just staring at the screen. The rational part of his brain kept saying this was wrong. That trust was everything, that once he crossed this line, there was no going back. But then he remembered the restaurant, the deleted texts, the way Lauren had started locking her phone. He typed in his credit card number, 2-day shipping. The website said the tracker was magnetic, undetectable, with real-time updates. As he clicked confirm purchase, his stomach dropped. This wasn't him. At least it wasn't the him from 6 months ago. 3 days later, the package arrived. It took Michael less than 30 seconds to install it while Lauren was in the shower. The app connected instantly. A little blue dot appeared on the map, his wife's exact location, updated every 30 seconds. He sat in his car watching that dot move as Lauren drove to work, just to test it. The first 2 days were normal, home to office, office to home. Then on Thursday night, the dot started moving again at 8:17 p.m. Michael watched as it traveled across town, stopping at an apartment complex he'd never heard Lauren mention. The dot stayed there for 3 hours and 12 minutes. That's when Michael realized he didn't actually want to know, but it was too late now. The tracker was working, and the truth was already in motion. The first week was the worst. Every night Michael checked the app. Every night the blue dot stayed where it should. Home, work, the grocery store. Then Friday came. Lauren left work at 5:15 like usual. But at 7:30, the dot started moving again. Michael watched it cut across town, stopping at an apartment complex called The Pines. He'd never heard Lauren mention The Pines. He pulled up the website. 1 bedrooms, month-to-month leases. Not the kind of place you visit unless you have a reason. Michael didn't go up to the door, he just sat in his car and waited. At 10:08, the dot started moving again. Lauren's car pulled out of the lot. She drove straight home. When she walked in, she smelled like perfume, something floral, light, not the scent she usually wore. Michael asked how her day was. She said it was fine. Just work. Nothing special. The blue dot moves again. Same route, same apartment complex. This time, Michael gets out of his car. He walks to the building, takes the stairs. The hallway is quiet. He stops outside Unit 214. No sounds from inside. He presses his ear to the door. Nothing. Then, faintly, laughter. A man's voice. Lauren's voice. The doorknob turns. Michael steps back, ducks around the corner. The door opens. A man walks out, carrying a trash bag. He's tall, dressed in gym clothes. The door closes behind him. Michael's phone buzzes. A text from Lauren. Running late? Home soon? Michael left before the man came back. He drove home in silence. That night, Lauren came in at 11:23. She didn't mention the Pines. She didn't mention the man. She just kissed Michael on the cheek and went to shower. The water ran for 20 minutes. When she came out, her skin was pink from the heat. Her phone buzzed. She ignored it. Michael didn't. Week 2 changed everything. Lauren got smarter. She stopped going straight to the apartment. Now she took detours. Left turns where she should have gone right. Sudden stops at gas stations she never used. On Tuesday, Michael watched the dot circle the same 3 blocks 4 times before finally heading toward the Pines. Like she was checking for tails. Like she knew. Michael driving slowly past a coffee shop where Lauren's car is parked. Through the window, we see her sitting alone at a table, phone in hand. She glances at her watch, then turns the phone completely off before putting it away. Then came the blackouts. Thursday evening, the dot froze near City Center. When Michael refreshed the app, it showed no signal. He called Lauren's phone, straight to voicemail. For 3 hours and 17 minutes, she disappeared. When the dot reappeared, it was already on the highway heading home. That night, Lauren said her phone died while she was shopping. But when Michael checked, the battery was at 68% when she walked in. The patterns got stranger. Lauren started leaving her phone in the car when she went places. The dot would sit motionless in some parking lot while she was clearly somewhere else. She began using cash for everything. No credit card paper trail. Michael found 3 ATM receipts in her jacket pocket, all from machines near the Pines. All for $200 withdrawals. By the end of week 2, Michael realized this wasn't some impulsive affair. The planning, the cash, the dead zones. Whatever Lauren was doing, she'd thought it through. She'd made choices, and that changed the game completely. That minute in the car became the longest of Michael's life, because that's when he understood. The woman walking through that door wasn't the woman he married anymore. She was someone else now, and he needed to find out who. The tracker led Michael to the Sunset Motel on a Thursday night. Room 12. He parked across the street where he could see the door but wouldn't be spotted. The rain helped. It gave him reason to keep his windows up, his wipers moving. He waited 17 minutes before Lauren's car pulled in. She didn't park in front of room 12. She chose a spot near the ice machine, like she'd done this before. Lauren walking quickly toward room 12, head down against the rain. She knocks twice, pauses, then knocks again. The door opens just enough for her to slip inside. Through the thin curtains, shadows move across the light. Michael counted to 300. Then he got out of the car. The rain soaked through his jacket as he crossed the parking lot. He stood outside room 12, listening. Muffled voices, the TV playing some infomercial. Then nothing. Then sounds he couldn't unhear. He raised his fist to knock, stopped, walked back to his car instead. He drove home in silence, left Lauren's car in the driveway exactly where she'd parked it that morning. Made sure her seat was adjusted right. Even wiped the rain off the steering wheel. Then he waited. She came home at 1:08 a.m. smelling like motel soap and someone else's cologne. When she kissed his cheek, he pretended to be asleep. Her lips were cold. Her phone buzzed in her purse. She ignored it. Lauren stared at the phone. Then at Michael. Then back at the phone. She didn't reach for it. Didn't explain. Just left it there between them like a lit fuse. The coffee machine finished brewing. The silence stretched. Finally, Michael spoke first. Just 2 words. Room 12. Lauren's hands went still. That's when they both knew. The tracking, the lies, the motel. None of that was the worst part. The worst part was what came next. Michael started digging the morning after the motel. Bank records first. 3 months of Lauren's credit card statements showed regular 200 withdrawals from ATMs near the Pines. Then he found the checks, 6 of them, each for $500, made out to J. Dawson Investigations. The memo line simply read, "Consulting." He Googled the name. Jason Dawson, private investigator, office on West 7th Street, specializing in infidelity cases. Michael standing outside a nondescript office building staring at the directory listing for Dawson investigations. The camera follows him as he takes the stairs to the third floor, pausing outside a frosted glass door with the company name stenciled in black. The office was closed when Michael arrived. Through the glass, he could make out an empty reception area. He waited 40 minutes in the stairwell before a man appeared, tall, gym-toned, wearing the same jacket Michael had seen him in at the motel. Jason Dawson. PI license number visible on the wall behind his desk when Michael peeked through the blinds. Michael's phone as he scrolls through Dawson's professional website. Testimonials from clients, services offered. The screen stops on a section titled Discreet Surveillance. The pieces came together slowly. Lauren hadn't hired Dawson to follow someone else. She'd hired him to follow Michael. The checks started 6 months back, right when Michael had noticed Lauren becoming distant, right when the late nights began. The math was simple. At some point, the surveillance had turned into something else. The watcher had become the lover. The client had become the affair. Michael waited until Lauren left Dawson's office 2 hours later. Then he walked in. The receptionist said Mr. Dawson was with a client. Michael said he'd wait. When Dawson finally emerged, his smile faded the moment he saw Michael's face. No introduction needed. They both knew exactly who the other was. Dawson started to speak. Michael just held up his phone, showing the tracker's history of every visit to the Pines, every stop at the Sunset Motel. Then he said the only words that mattered. "I want the files, all of them, the ones she paid you to make about me." Dawson exhaling slowly, running a hand through his hair, then turning to unlock filing cabinet behind his desk. The camera stays on Michael's face as the drawer opens. Lauren knew the moment she walked in. Maybe it was how Michael was sitting. Maybe it was the folder on the table. She dropped her purse by the door but didn't move further. Michael didn't stand up, just pointed at the folder. "Open it," he said. Lauren's hand shook as she lifted the cover. Inside were photos, dozens of them. All of Michael, coming out of his office building, getting coffee alone, driving to the gym. Each one time-stamped from months ago. Lauren's fingers tracing the edge of a photo showing Michael smiling at his phone outside a restaurant. The date on the timestamp matches their anniversary. "You hired him to follow me," Michael said. Not a question. Lauren didn't deny it. She sank onto the couch, staring at the photos. "You were acting different," she said. "Coming home late. Always on your phone." Michael laughed, a sharp, hollow sound. The restaurant in the photo? He'd been planning their anniversary dinner, the late nights, overtime to pay for the vacation she wanted. The phone calls? His sister going through her divorce. Lauren pulling another set of photos from the folder, these showing Michael with a blonde woman at a coffee shop. Lauren's voice cracks as she points. "Who is she?" Michael doesn't hesitate. "My sister, the one you met at our wedding." Lauren's face changes then. The anger drains away, just leaves something worse behind. That's when Lauren started talking, fast, like the words had been waiting. She'd hired Dawson 8 months ago, convinced Michael was cheating. Then one day, Dawson suggested meeting in person to discuss the case, brought the photos to a coffee shop, then dinner, then drinks. The professional relationship became something else. "I thought you did it first," Lauren kept saying. Like that explained everything. Michael just stared at the photos of himself, all those innocent moments twisted into something suspicious. All that doubt turned into an excuse. Lauren starts crying. Quiet, ashamed tears. Michael doesn't move to comfort her, just watches. The folder sits between them like a bomb that's already gone off. When Michael finally spoke again, his voice was steady. "You didn't trust me, so you paid someone to watch me, then you slept with him." Lauren didn't deny it, just whispered, "I thought I was right." That was the worst part. Not the affair, not the lies. That she'd convinced herself she was justified. That all of this, the tracker, the motel, the broken marriage, started because she refused to just ask him. The silence stretched so long, the clock on the wall became audible. Tick, tick, tick. Then Lauren spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. It wasn't just about the photos. She didn't look at Michael when she said it, just kept her eyes fixed on that image of Dawson, like the answer was somewhere in the grain of the paper. "At first I just wanted proof, then I wanted to feel like someone was on my side." She took a slow breath. And then I wanted him. Michael's hands clenching into fists on his knees, then deliberately relaxing. His wedding band catches the lamplight as he finally reaches for one of the photos, a shot of Lauren and Dawson entering the pines together, her hand brushing his arm. Michael slid the photo across the table toward her. "How long?" he asked. Simple, direct. Lauren didn't hesitate. 4 months. The admission hung there, ugly and undeniable. She'd paid Dawson for 6 months of surveillance, which meant for 2 of those months she'd been sleeping with him while still having him follow Michael, while still pretending at home, while still sharing a bed. Lauren's phone lighting up on the table beside the photos. A new message notification from Jay appears. "We need to talk about the retainer." She doesn't reach for it, just watches the screen go dark again. Then came the worst part, the planning. Lauren admitted she'd been looking at apartments, that she'd met with a divorce attorney 3 weeks ago, that Dawson had recommended the lawyer. Michael listened without interrupting. When she finished, he asked just one more question. "Were you ever going to tell me?" Lauren looked at him then, really looked at him, for the first time that night. "No," she said. "I was just going to leave." That was it. No screaming, no begging. Just a wedding album covering the evidence of its own undoing. Michael left the room then, left Lauren sitting there with her choices, with her lies. With the quiet understanding that some betrayals don't need a dramatic exit. They just need the truth to sink in. Divorce court became their new normal. Every Tuesday at 9 a.m., same courtroom. The first hearing was about the house. Lauren wanted it sold immediately. Michael wanted to buy her out. The judge ordered an appraisal. The second hearing was about the bank accounts. That's when Michael's lawyer produced the records. All those $1,500 checks to Dawson Investigations. Lauren's face went pale when the judge asked if these were marital funds spent on an extramarital affair. A financial disclosure form, Lauren's signature at the bottom. The line item for consulting fees has been circled in red pen. The amount totals $9,000 over 6 months. Then came the credit cards. Michael's lawyer subpoenaed Lauren's statements. The charges told a story. Dinners at expensive restaurants, weekend hotel stays, even a $400 charge at a jewelry store the day after Valentine's. None of these were gifts for Michael. All of them coincided with dates in Dawson's case file. The judge stopped the proceedings twice to remind Lauren about perjury penalties. Montage of legal documents being stamped, notarized, and filed. A close-up of a forensic accountant's report showing large cash withdrawals from joint accounts. Then a shot of Michael's lawyer sliding a new document across the table. A motion for Lauren to pay Michael's legal fees due to intentional dissipation of marital assets. By the fourth hearing, the tone changed. Lauren's lawyer started talking about settlements. Michael's team pushed harder, demanding full financial disclosure, threatening to subpoena Dawson's business records. That's when Lauren asked for a recess. In the hallway, she pulled Michael aside. No lawyers, no pretense. "You win," she said. "Just tell me what you want." Michael didn't hesitate. "The truth," he said. "All of it. In writing." The final agreement took 11 pages. Lauren kept her car but forfeited any claim to Michael's 401k. She got 30% of the home equity instead of 50%. The clause about Dawson was simplest of all, a single sentence acknowledging inappropriate use of marital funds that would remain sealed. When the judge asked if they both understood the terms, Michael nodded. Lauren signed without looking up. The pen left a small smear of ink where her hand shook. Michael hired his own investigator 2 days after the divorce papers were filed, not to follow Lauren, to dig into Dawson. It took Carl 72 hours to uncover what Lauren never bothered to check. Dawson had been sued 3 times by former clients, 2 for fraud, 1 for blackmail. His license had been suspended twice. There were restraining orders, complaints to the state board. And one very interesting pattern. 3 different women who'd hired Dawson to investigate cheating spouses, only to end up in relationships with him right before their divorces were finalized. Michael standing outside Dawson's office building at night. He doesn't go in, just slips the envelope under the door. Inside are copies of everything Carl found, plus 1 new addition. A screenshot of Lauren's signed confession about their affair, with a handwritten note at the bottom. "How many others have you consulted like this?" Dawson called Michael the next morning. No threats, no denials, just a question. What do you want? Michael's answer was simple. I want you to tell Lauren the truth. All of it. Starting with how many clients you've slept with. Dawson tried to argue at first. Then, Michael mentioned the state licensing board, the local news stations, the ex-clients who'd already agreed to testify. The call lasted 4 minutes. Dawson hung up first. Lauren's apartment later that evening. Through the window, we see her pacing, phone pressed to her ear. Her free hand keeps running through her hair. Then suddenly, she stops. Listens. Sinks onto the couch. The phone drops to the floor. The camera stays outside, watching through the glass as she puts her head in her hands. Lauren showed up at Michael's door at 11:17 p.m. No warning. No lawyer this time. Just her, standing in the rain, holding a stack of printed emails. Dawson's correspondence with other women. The language was almost identical to what he'd written to her. The promises, the pet names, even the restaurant recommendations. She tried to speak twice, couldn't. Finally, Michael took the papers from her hands. Not angrily, just tired. I know, he said. I've seen them all. Then he closed the door. Michael never sent the documents to the licensing board, never went to the media. The leverage was enough. Somewhere in that decision was a strange kind of mercy. Not for Dawson, and not really for Lauren either. Maybe for himself. Because revenge would have kept him tangled in their mess forever. And after everything, the only thing Michael really wanted was to be free. The apartment lease was month to month. That's what Michael told people when they asked. No long-term commitments, no big purchases. Just the essentials. A bed, a couch, a TV. The photo album was the last thing he'd unpacked. Not because he couldn't bear to look at it, because he needed to know if he still could. Michael's thumb brushing over a particular photo, Lauren laughing as she feeds him cake, frosting smudged on her fingertip. The camera lingers just long enough to see the date stamp in the corner, 7 years ago. He studied each picture like evidence, the way Lauren's eyes crinkled when she smiled, how tightly she'd held his arm during their first dance. The photos told one story. The divorce papers told another. Somewhere between those two versions was the truth. Not about who she'd become, but about who he'd thought she was. That was the person he'd really lost. Michael closing the album and sliding it into a box marked storage. His phone buzzes on the counter, a text from his sister. Dinner tonight? He types back one word. Sure. Then pauses, adds, bring wine. The box went on a high shelf in the closet. Not hidden, just out of sight. Michael didn't burn the photos or delete the memories. He just stopped revisiting them. Some nights, passing that closet, he'd catch himself reaching for the shelf. Then he'd remember. Not the betrayal, not the lies, the lesson. Trust isn't something you earn once, it's something you choose every day until you don't. Michael turning off the apartment lights, the room going dark except for the glow of the city through the blinds. The camera holds on the closed closet door as a car horn sounds faintly outside, then fades to black. And just like that, he moved on. So, was I wrong to track her? Should I have just asked her straight out, walked away sooner, or was finding out the truth the only way forward? I want to know what you would have done. If you were sitting in that car outside the motel, if you saw the dot stop at that apartment again and again, would you have looked away, or would you have needed to know just like I did? Drop a comment, tell me your take, and if you've ever been there, you're not alone. This is the end of today's story. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more interesting stories. See you on the next story.